try and camp out right here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
I'll get out of the way.
Manage this camera right here.
How are you, Rocky? I know it does.
sure nobody's there at the door, because nobody's going to be in the stairwell when we go up. We're going to park in the back. I'll just make sure that homeless guy ain't going around. Not much else to advance.
Providing everything to the continuing founder and CEO of Cycle Breakers Breaking Change Inc.
Come down here, please. Lord God, we thank you for today, Lord. We thank you, Father God, for the opportunity to come together in fellowship for the greater good. And we thank you, Lord, for using Rotary to do so. As we continue to move throughout this service today, Lord, we thank you for the opportunity that we have Governor Beshear here. And we ask, Father God, we first want to say thank you, Lord, for the tremendous amount of leadership that Governor Beshear has shown since he's been in office, Father God. Not only the leadership that he has been effective for the state of Kentucky, but for the surrounding states also. And we ask, Lord, that you continue to bless him and guide him and keep him and his family, Father God, as he, Lord God, as he continues to move forward. We bless everyone, ask that you bless everyone in here as we continue to work together for service. And we ask, Father God, that, Lord God, that you keep President Lynch and his team together as he directs the Rotary and the way that we should go. And in your precious name, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Leading us to the pledge and following test is Dave Christopher, Executive Director and Founder of EMPEN.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now before we test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you. I would like to invite you to the podium the immediate past president of our club, the current president of the Rotary Fund of Louisville, and a good friend that's going to be helping a lot of the last year. So come on, Paul, put it up.
I don't even need to stand over there. Is that true? All right. So to get things started, I'm going to ask the team from Whitney Strong to come up, our executive director to come up, and we'll get this show on the go. So y'all come on up, and William, you'll come over here. Today I have the honor to present a check to an important organization in our community founded by one of our members, Whitney Austin. Some of you may recall that tomorrow is the 5th anniversary of the mass shooting at Fifth Third Bank in Cincinnati, where Whitney was shot 12 times. She's entering the bank. While still in the hospital recovering, she created Whitney Strong with a mission to find common ground in gun violence through data-driven, responsible gun ownership. When a similar event took place here in our community on April 10th, our club chose to become a more active part of that solution. Under the leadership of Fred Cowan and Gene West, I don't think Gene's here with us today, we have formed a committee similar to the committee we formed when we did the Community Impact Committee to talk about what we can do in West Louisville. And we've done that again. We're going to do this and make an impactful West Louisville initiative for reducing gun violence in our city. One such action is supporting Whitney Strong in that endeavor. Through education, through legislation, through research. Before all this started taking place, Whitney and I had been talking and planning, and we still plan to work with the two high schools that we have, Western and Iroquois High Schools, to take their Stop the Bleed and gun violence prevention programs to those schools. We were already in that lane, and Krista here has been so responsible for helping us see those things as well. It's hard, man. I mean, Whitney, by choice, relives the worst day of her life over and over and over again. And every time one of these things, when these shootings occurs, I'm just so proud to call Whitney a friend. Whitney is unfortunately unable to be with us in person today. She's in Cincinnati, kicking off. Oh, she's right here. Hey, now I'll never get rid of this. So I've got up in the front with me Kristen Lonsball. Kristen and I work at the West End School writing grants. She's helping the Whitney Strong organization. I've got Danae Cloyd, program manager for Whitney Strong. I've got Derek Selzman, director of development, and I've got Q, a board member, Keonis Cornel, and here with us. I've got executive director Blake Taylor with us too. So Randy, this is hard. This is hard. That was a hard day. My son was in that building. And at 9:07, I get a phone call from him to say that our police force he said rescued, and he did. We didn't know what was going on. We were driving home from Florida. That will tell you that was one of the longest days of my wife and I's journey as being married. But we came home to calm. And we came home, and Governor Andy, you set that home with the way that you have led our state. And I just want to say thank you for that. We're extremely honored to have with us Marianne Elliott, wife of Tommy Elliott, Senior Vice President of Old National Bank, one of those who was taken tragically too soon. And we also have Darren McCauley, the Senior Vice President at Old National Bank, survivor of the shooting. Everybody in this room, we're all survivors of all the shootings that go on in Louisville. And with Fred and with Gene, we're going to make a difference about that. So, now I get to do the big check. Here comes the big check. It is big checks are fun. Andy, you're not as big as yours, but pretty doggone good. We are so happy. Come on in here, baby. God bless you for the work that you do. God bless you, Governor Andy, for the work that you do. I can't hear you if somebody says something. I'm deaf, so it's okay. All right. On. Thanks, Kevin.
That was a great presentation, and I also want to thank Paul for being involved. It's not my honor to introduce today's speaker. Governor Andy Beshear grew up in Central Kentucky, went to Henry Clay High School, Vanderbilt University, and the University of Virginia School of Law. His family and community instilled in him values of faith, family, and public service. He learned those values more than ever during the COVID pandemic, and also during a couple of natural disasters, historic disasters in our state. One in West Kentucky was tornadoes, one in East Kentucky was flood. And the Governor Beshear's leadership Kentucky is rebuilding and our economy is booming. Even as our state faces some of its toughest challenges, Governor Beshear is prioritizing bringing good paying jobs to every corner of the Commonwealth. The Governor's wife, First Lady Brittany Beshear, along with her two children, live in Franklin and are active in Louisville's Fairgrass Christian Church. Please join me in welcoming our Governor, Andy Beshear.
excited and honored to be here with you today. Listen, I'm the first person that I can remember that proudly said he lived in Louisville while I was running for governor. I lived here for 15 years. It's where my kids were born. That's where they went to elementary school. This is such a special city to Brittany and I, and we love Louisville and each and every one of you. And excited to be here today to talk to a group that always puts service first and has been there for this Commonwealth and our people during such difficult times. Because we have had a lot of difficult times these last 4 years. You think about what we've been through, in many ways it seems like more historic adversity in a short period of time than I can ever remember. We had a pandemic, tornadoes, flooding. We had 2 windstorms, 2 ice storms, a polar plunge, the coldest I can ever remember it, and now the hottest summer on record. We've had difficult acts of violence that have torn people we love away from us far too early, torn at the fabric of this community. We have families dealing with inflation that, while temporary, is still tough on their day-to-day and ought to be recognized. And we're even dealing with the economic repercussions of a war in Europe, something I thought I'd only read about in textbooks, though I did learn apparently a couple months ago I was banned by Russia. It is okay to laugh if they're focused on me. But even with all of that, and with so much of it being very personal to me, I stand here today more excited, more optimistic, and more hopeful for our future in Kentucky than I have ever been in my lifetime. And that's hard to process, going through such great difficulty, but at the same time having such great opportunity. In many ways, it's like we're living that 30th Psalm. That's the one that says, weeping may linger in the evening, but joy comes in the morning. I'd like to think that psalm is about when we are our brother and our sister's keeper, especially in the most difficult of times, that there are good times ahead. Now, if you want to truly relive that psalm, go back to the beginning of 2021. We have a lot of people who are in here in healthcare. Let's thank our healthcare heroes. They will tell you that 2021 started really scary. The Delta variant was raging, our hospitals were overrun. I called in the National Guard. We were bringing in nursing students. We did not know if we would make it. But that is not how history is going to remember 2021 in Kentucky. It's going to remember 2021 as the year we didn't just break, we shattered every economic development record in the books. And we let the rest of the country and the world know that Kentucky was becoming an economic powerhouse. I know we got a few bankers, so let me give you some scale. We started that year averaging about $5 billion in new private sector investment in Kentucky a year. In 2021, we set a record of $11.2 billion. And we like that because it comes with jobs. Man, a job isn't a number. It brings dignity to an individual, it brings security to a family, and it brings opportunity to the next generation. We went into 2021 averaging about 9,000 new Kentucky jobs a year. That year we set a record 18,000 at the second highest wage we'd ever announced. Our best year for economic development by far. But then we rolled into 2022, hardly losing steam at all. $10.5 billion in new investment, 16,500 new jobs, and now it is just the beginning of September. But I can tell you with confidence that we are living in what will at least be our third best year for economic development in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And so we think about what that means for momentum, for being on a historic roll, to have our best years ever back to back to back. It means that we can turn good years of economic development into decades of prosperity. It means that we have the chance to not only leapfrog 10 other states' economies, but to be a top 10 state economy. It means that we can be the generations that change everything, that leave a collective legacy that is not mine but all of ours, of more opportunity for our kids and grandkids than we could ever imagine. Just think, if we're the people that turn our brain drain into a brain gain, never to lose our talented young people to other states ever again, But how about other states, talented young people start moving here because the Commonwealth of Kentucky is where it's at. I mean, you look at the fact that we are now home to the biggest investment in the history of Ford in Elizabethtown, in the history of Amazon, because the Northern Kentucky Cincinnati Airport is on our side of the river. You look at building the 2 biggest battery plants on planet Earth and being ahead of schedule. You look at building the 4th or the 5th biggest one in Bowling Green. You look at the other one we announced in Shelbyville. You look at the role we're on in metals. We're building, we're about to open Nucor's clean steel facility in Brandenburg. Announcements like Novelis doubling its size in Todd County in a little town that they just announced a housing project in that will double the size of that town in less than a year once it's completed. All over Kentucky, we are seeing jobs flock to communities that didn't always see them. I mean, I got to announce a new steel facility in Bell County and a new distillery in Fulton County on the same day. Furthest east, just about, and the furthest west. I mean, there is a historic opportunity here, and it's important that we get it right. Because in historic moments, all too often, people are left out, and we need everyone. If you think about right now and the jobs we're creating, we're going to have a good job waiting for everybody to get healthy enough, educated enough, and trained enough. Think about what we can do to address generational poverty. Think about what we can do to restore hope where some places it's been lost. So I think we have a calling to get this historic moment right. And what that means is this prosperity has to reach every part of Kentucky, especially parts too often left out, like in eastern and in western Kentucky. It means that prosperity has to reach every single neighborhood in this and every other city. And that's why one of the proudest announcements that I've been a part of since I've been governor is the fact that we are building the first hospital in the west end of Louisville in 150 years. You add that to the Goodwill campus that's there, our NIA Center with a whole bunch of jobs right across the street. The West Broadway YMCA, the new Beecher Terrace complex, my goodness. The Norton track and field facility, world class right there. Listen, it's not enough, but it is a start and a commitment that we are going to continue to move the right way to make sure that everyone in this city and this Commonwealth is included and that no one is left out. And just imagine, I mean, if we can meet this moment and get it right, if we can meet a historic moment with our faith and values, the golden rule that says we love our neighbor as ourselves, and the parable of the Good Samaritan that says everybody is our neighbor. No ifs, ands, or buts. If we can meet this historic moment right, every CEO across the United States or across planet Earth are going to want to be a part of what we have going on right here. For the first time I can remember, all of our surrounding states are jealous of us. Oh, they're looking at us and they're saying, Kentucky, how are you doing? And I'm looking back at them and saying, I'm not telling you. But this isn't a me, it is a we. When we have this much investment, when we have this much momentum, there's enough credit for everyone. No, my job as governor isn't to move a state to the right or the left, but to move it forward for all of our families. It's an understanding of how this rank partisanship is pulling us apart or leaving people behind when a good job isn't Democrat or Republican. A new bridge in red or blue must be painted that way. The expansion of clean drinking water. We're hooking up 42 homes that have never had access to clean drinking water. 88,000, we're going to improve the pressure. The expansion of broadband. We just announced more than $300 million of broadband grants today that are going to hook up 42,000 Kentucky homes that currently don't have it. All of that lifts up every single Kentucky family, leaving none of them out. Oh, we've got a chance while we're being nationally recognized to do something special. You know, last year we were ranked number 2 in per capita economic development, number 3 in the creation of rural jobs. Site Selection Magazine put out their Prosperity Cup rankings a couple months ago. We were 5th in the country, but for the first time ever, number 1 in our region, beating out these 2 states called Tennessee and Texas. That feels good if you're the governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. last year, the lowest monthly unemployment rate, I think 4 months ago, the longest period of low unemployment we've seen. Our fiscal house is in better shape than it's ever been. The last 3 years have been our 3 biggest budget surpluses. The biggest one coming this last year at $1.55 billion. And what that means to me is that we have plenty of money to give our public school educators the big raise they deserve. We are currently 44th at starting teacher pay. Our plan, an 11% across the board raise for every public school employee, would put us in the mid-20s. We are about 40th in average teacher pay. That same plan, again, would put us in the mid-20s, and we could get there within a year. But let's remember, it's more than just our teachers, God bless them, every single one, that we need in our schools. We know in this county we need a lot more bus drivers. And if we're going to have them, we've got to pay them a wage that attracts them. It's time that Frankfurt also followed the law and fully funded pupil transportation. Listen, I know there's blame to go around, but when a General Assembly shorts Jefferson County $18 million for pupil transportation, some of the blame has to go there as well. But you know, let's take the big bold step forward. We need to have a workforce in the future. Let's fully fund universal pre-K, and let's do it in this next budget. You look at, not only have we had the biggest budget surpluses ever, but we've gotten our first 2 bond rating upgrades in the last 13 years over the past 6 months. What that means is 3 things. Number 1, the toughest critic says our economy is booming, and booming more than most. Number 2, these big projects we do, whether we build a school or major road projects, they cost us less on the borrowing, whether you're the state or a county or a city or a school district. But the number 3 thing it said, and we made this promise, is that the promised pension, the promised retirement of every teacher, police officer, firefighter, social worker, every state, city, and county employee are in better shape than they've been in decades. We made that promise, we're going to keep it. So as we look at moving forward, just think about what we can do. I mean, because when we're bringing good things to people, when we're trying to build prosperity for everyone, you start to see signs of hope in places that maybe have been lost. And we have fewer kids in our foster care system than we did 2.5, 3 years ago. We have the lowest recidivism rate in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Think about living out that value of second chances, connecting people to second chance employment. And if you are an employer, please look into second chance employment. Whether that's helping people who are coming out of addiction, or helping people through our incarceration to employment program with the state chamber. These are great workers. And by creating that stability, it is the number 1 thing on either side that helps people get better, stay better, get back into society, get back with their families, make sure they don't recommit a crime. It's a way to make our communities safer, and at the same time to boost employment like we know that we need to. Maybe the one I'm most proud of, and there's a lot of people in this room that have worked to make this happen, is we got a glimmer of hope against this opioid epidemic this last year, when we were one of only 8 states in the entire country that saw a significant decrease in overdose deaths. So let's thank everybody in treatment, in recovery, and law enforcement, and our first responders for making that happen. And so we sit here at this moment, having gone through some of the most unimaginable tragedies, from losing a very close friend of mine, almost losing another, having the worst day and one of the best days of your life on the same day as a challenge. Losing your close friend and seeing another in the emergency room that looks at you and says, "Hey, boss," and carries on a conversation even though he's been shot. That's when I realized he was on a whole lot of painkillers. But I want to take a minute to thank especially those 2 LMPD officers that ran into gunfire to protect our friends and to do their very best. While we lost people that day, I am so grateful for their courage and Officer Wilt's sacrifice. I've gotten a chance to to thank him personally. He, as you know, is being recognized by the Ali Center this year as Kentucky's hero. I think he's all of our hero. I know he's not here today. Can we give him a round? And while I think I'm here today in my official capacity as governor, there is something else going on. And I just want to tell you that every day I've been your governor, I've done my best. We have faced things that there is no playbook for. They've hit me personally, from Tommy's death to my dad's hometown of Dawson Springs, a town I knew every inch of, 70% wiped out in one night. But you know, we committed. We committed those moments to doing better. One of the reasons that I want to be your governor again is I made a commitment to Eastern and Western Kentucky that we would rebuild. And I want to see that through. In the West, we moved from building single homes to building entire neighborhoods. I've got to stand in the middle of an area where 15 homes are going up at the same time, and for everyone who was generous enough to donate to the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund, I just handed over the 100 set of keys to new homeowners thanks to your generosity. And in Eastern Kentucky, I hope you join us, because we are going to do something transformational that's never been done. We've got to move people from the floodplain to higher ground. Possibly the toughest rebuild the United States has ever seen, but as it challenges, there are opportunities. We get to reimagine what a neighborhood in Eastern Kentucky looks like, whether that's health clinics, schools, senior living, affordable housing. It's all got to be affordable housing. But just think about the fact that we are intentional in the beginning, knowing we're going to build it from the ground up, what we can do together. We can make sure we not only get people back under a roof that will not ever flood again, but we can address some of the challenges that Eastern Kentucky has faced. And one of the reasons that I'm so proud that Mountain Parkway is now being fully 4-lane. If you want to talk about something transformational, look at what happens across I-64. We're going to have another artery going into Eastern Kentucky, and we're already seeing businesses come to it because of that. This is the first time in history that every part of the 4-lane of the Mountain Parkway is either completed, under construction, or under contract. Now, we are truly making sure that no region is left out. Go over to the west. Look at the I-69 project. We are so far ahead on that, having another major interstate through the west. It goes right past Mayfield. And if there's one thing that I'm proud of in our job creation, it's that since I've been governor, we've created nearly 800 jobs in Grace County, over 500 of them since the tornadoes. In the year after the tornado, and it was December, and that first full year after, they made the top 100 towns in America in their category for economic development and for job creation. So we've got a chance. And all these massive infrastructure projects, living through our own Eisenhower moment again, to lift up every family and in every part of Kentucky. And that's important for Louisville, too. Louisville is an economic engine for the Commonwealth. You also provide services, and so many services, to the rest of the Commonwealth. See, I believe that the day should be gone where we're just analyzing where this dollar and that dollar goes. The day should be gone when there is any type of chasm between any part of Kentucky and this city, because we are all so interconnected in the way that we do business, in the way that we live our lives, and the opportunities, whether it's adventure tourism out in the state or the thriving art scene that we are all so proud of in Louisville, Kentucky. I believe we are more connected now than ever before. And I hope that the way I'm governed and that the way I'm running this campaign brings all Kentuckians together. Because we are in this together. And wherever we're going, I think in the pandemic we said we'll get through it together. Wherever we're going, we're going to get to it together. And that's why I believe that we have to continue to try to show people what we have in common, that it's so much more important and so much more united than anything that pulls us apart. And yes, I think we have to say no to the anger politics that has swept our nation. We cannot sit by and watch someone trying to get a job encourage one Kentuckian to hate another. That doesn't help move us forward. And right now, there is some CEO across America that's looking at Kentucky for its next big project. I'm trying to land another battery facility. What if they come here and they see some of that hate? Or they see some of those commercials? Think about what we could be doing to a community like Breckinridge County, where when Atlas put one of their international headquarters in Breckenridge County. It was the largest jobs announcement they'd ever had. Go over to Anderson County. We landed a manufacturing facility. It's the most new jobs in 74 or 75. This is going on all over Kentucky. We cannot risk the future of our people, right, over getting caught up in whatever people think works nationally but should not work here. So I'm going to continue to do my best. I'm going to continue to do my best to lead with compassion. And I'll say it, love. And we get caught up in politics on this toxic masculinity. It doesn't help anybody. Right? My parents always told me if you got it, you don't have to flex. But this idea that we should be talking down to each other or pushing us away from each other instead of truly feeling for the people that are out there. Because even when we hit good times, there's still people that are going to be grieving and people that are going to be struggling. And they're going to need our help just as much then as during any of these natural disasters. And if we think about our wonderful nonprofits, which we have here, you know, we oftentimes think that they are most important at a time like the tornadoes, like the flooding. But just think about a time when we've got a good job waiting for anybody who can get ready for it, about what they are going to be able to do. That excellent job that's waiting to place somebody in, what we can do to serve the lost, the lonely, the left behind, the extra chances we can get to make intra-generational change in those families and in our communities. We've got a chance to do something real special. And my goal is to be here to do it with you for the next 4 years. Thank you all very much.
We have a few questions. These are pretty much the same we introduced you or asked you, Attorney General Cameron. Despite, some of these you've already touched on, but I'll ask them all later. Despite tremendous economic growth, business investments, and increased jobs over the past few years, Kentucky has lost numerous corporate headquarters. Where's your plan to reverse the trend?
We've had some very public losses of headquarters that have been moving in other directions, it appears, for a number of years. What I'd love to get to you is a list of new headquarters that we brought here in Kentucky. You know, in Lexington, we did something that I've never seen before. We relocated a national headquarters from Tokyo, Japan. That we had produced so well in that organization that they were convinced for the first time in their history to move a whole business unit from Japan to the United States. We've been seeing corporate headquarters move from a number of other states. We had a trucking company move from California. Wow, you look at the makers of Prime and how they're growing out their corporate headquarters here in Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, they announced hundreds of new jobs at some of the highest salaries we've ever seen. We're seeing more tech, not startups, but as they take that next growth located here in Louisville and across the Commonwealth. WKU, I'm going to brag. First of all, let me brag on U of L, the incredible work that they're doing since we're here. Let me tell you, we would not have the two biggest battery plants on planet Earth under construction without their engineering school. They were absolutely essential to getting that done. But WKU just opened this innovation lab, and they've already located 3 new national headquarters. One is in AI, and the other 2 are in tech. So yes, we've taken a couple of very public losses, but we're stacking up a whole bunch of wins. And just think, some of these bigger announcements we make, at some point, the gravity of their operations is in Kentucky. And so we'll work, and we'll work, and we'll work to try to get those headquarters moved too. We've got, I would say over the past 2 years, 24 companies that have located their corporate headquarters in Kentucky. Look at Vila, here in Louisville and in Shelbyville. And then we got some that are growing. Look at Shady Rays. I mean, Shady Rays is a great story. You really ought to hear it directly from them, putting them together in their parents' living room. Now that's the big construction on I-64 right outside of Shelbyville. is Shady Ray's manufacturing facility, fastest growing online sunglass company in the country. They sell subscriptions, so if you're like me and you lose them or sell them, they will replace them. I'm on pair number 9.
This is a longer question about Louisville Metro Police Department.
Yeah.
LMPD faces a shortage of about 300 officers. Additionally, more than a dozen are on leave pending lab results from the state forensics lab. The state lab gets backed up, sometimes taking 12 to 15 months to turn things around, even when the rest of the investigation can wrap up in a couple of weeks. This creates incredible strain for the officer and their families because most officers depend on a third of their annual income from overtime and outside jobs that require a sworn peace officer. How can this process be sped up? Is it possible for Louisville to get its own lab since we are a mega customer?
So first, let me tell you that I'm proud of the partnership I've had with law enforcement, where we secured the largest single raise in the history of the Kentucky State Police. We were seeing significant losses over the years. Because of that raise, we have our highest number of officers since 2016, and we are on our way to having a full slate of Kentucky State Troopers. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a lot in Louisville, but there are counties that have one sheriff, one deputy, and maybe one state trooper to patrol. The way that we're moving, this gives us at least 2 state troopers that patrol. And again, when we are thinking about one state, the Kentucky State Police there are absolutely critical. The raises that we provided led to raises across the Commonwealth. And I've also pushed every year that I've been Attorney General and Governor for increases in what's called the CLEP fund. That requires every law enforcement, POP certified law enforcement officer to get up to 40 hours of additional and new training to get a stipend that is there. That's, I believe, $4,400 or $4,600 right now. What that means is when we see concerning issues, we can put that into our training in real time for the next year, and the next year, and the next year as it goes. Now, DOCJT does most of that. LMPD handles some, if not most, of it all. On the lab side, as well as the law enforcement, the number one thing that's led to a shortage of people was the elimination of pensions for those workers. That used to be why a new educator, which now doesn't get one, would serve 30+ years, dedicating their life because they knew at the end that we would keep our promise that's there. That's the reason that we've had fewer social workers, fewer teachers, fewer corrections officers, fewer Department of Juvenile Justice workers. You go through all of it, the day that those cuts were made were the day that we had challenges. It was also the day that law enforcement organizations used to have over 1,000 applications for 100 spots. So you could be really discerning about who you picked and who you hired. And to get back there requires us to have a defined pension to make those jobs bring in those level of applications. The lab is the same way. So we teach and send our lab workers to an incredible amount of training. Then they come to work for us. They work about a year, and they make twice as much in the private sector. And so the challenge here is a retention challenge. And so we're always looking for different ways we can partner, but Louisville would have that same retention challenge. So I think the first thing we've got to do is figure out how to keep our people longer. One thing we're looking at is if we're going to provide that training up front, it's in the form of a forgivable loan, depending on how many years you work in the state. So we've got to line up our retention benefits to better keep our essential workers.
I'm going to tie a couple of these together. They're both with gun violence. What are your plans to reduce gun violence, the number of shootings and deaths by guns in our Commonwealth? Do you support Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg's request to give Louisville the authority to shape its gun policies?
So I think the number one thing that we can and should push in the General Assembly is a reasonable red flag law. They have it in Florida. They have it in Indiana. This law is not red or blue. The court system is there to ensure everybody's rights, but what it allows is law enforcement or a parent, a concerned friend that has all the proof that's needed at that moment before someone's about to go murder, people we love and care about, to step in and do something about it. Surely, that we can all agree that if we know this is going to happen, And the court system is there to protect everybody's Second Amendment rights. And my goodness, we trust a court system to determine what's best for a child and where they should be. We ought to trust the court system to preserve people's Second Amendment rights while saying, no, a crime, a murder, deaths are about to occur, and to step in and to do something about it. I also think that we need to continue to pursue the appeal that relates to domestic violence and domestic violence orders. I mean, the numbers don't lie there, and how many people we lose each and every year that already have an order out there where they've proven that somebody can, will, or might hurt them, what they're going through. But this shouldn't be a heavy lift in our state legislature. Again, it's in red states, it's in blue states, it's nothing other than giving a tool in the toolbox to prevent the worst of the worst from happening. And now I know what people will do is say, would it have stopped this, or would it have stopped that? And I don't know. What I do know is it'll stop something in the future. Having the tool there will stop something in the future. And if we can put that in place to where no one ever has to go through what you did and what we have, and it's more than worth it.
What opportunities do you see for state funding towards youth-serving organizations that increase social capacity, belonging, resiliency, and mental health, and prevent long-term costly effects of adverse childhood experiences by providing mentorship and support?
So it's critical, and it's one of the reasons we're doing better with foster care. It's early intervention. We need to be doing early intervention more in the justice system, even though we're already doing it. Because again, right now, the jobs that are out there, the hope, the opportunity is greater than it's ever been, but many people don't see that future and that path. And how do we put with our youth that are at risk, those that can communicate, those that can show that path? And I think that is partnering with pillars of the community. It's ensuring that we have the very best voices sitting at the table with us, that those that have already shown that they have paths that work, and making sure that we invest in them. I mean, right now, every youth that we lose is not only, a child of God that we failed, but it's also one less worker that we have in a booming economy where they could raise their family, working just that one job. It's why we launched Everybody Counts. And that's a big, ambitious program where we will place every single graduating senior of JCPS either in higher ed with the dollars they need thanks to Evolve 502, an incredible nonprofit organization doing incredible work, or directly in a job with one of our major employers here in Kentucky. We work with JCPS to do that, and just imagine if we can get down not just senior year, but junior year and sophomore year, and we are showing the opportunity that's there. What you can make coming out right now was unheard of, when we were growing up. And maybe we can reach that next child and the next one.
I also a gift of Kentucky's finest group. We make look like fun. You've already kind of touched on this, but what are your thoughts about universal pre-K?
I'm for it. We have the money to fund it, and we should do it in the next budget. You look brilliant.
It is kind of hot here. Given the need for more affordable housing throughout our Commonwealth, not just for working families, but for low-income seniors, what solutions do you offer on how to address the issues faced by developers of NIMBY or Northern My Backyard? Resistance developers face when attempting to launch housing projects across our communities.
Well, the first thing you'll see in our next budget is more money going into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It is a proven way to deliver more affordable housing. It leverages private dollars using state dollars as a program that everybody already understands. We have a tool. We just need to do more of it. Now, we need to encourage it in all parts of Kentucky. There are some challenges to doing it in Louisville. There are challenges to doing it in the East and the West as well. I think it's all about education. When it comes to the NIMBY issues, that it's got to start early, and that is a public-private partnership with government, nonprofit, and developers all talking about what's to come. Because you go into a scholar house and you see God at work. I mean, you see so many lives being changed. And yes, at the beginning, there probably were some of the neighborhoods that pushed back. But I'm guessing if you talk to Kathy, those neighborhoods, once they figure it out, rally around her and her people and want to be a part of it. In fact, I once made candy canes with Kathy and the whole group. And you ought to try that out. The guy's last name is actually Claus, I think.
What are your plans to, Jody, answer this sort of thing clearly? What are your plans to mitigate the opioid and fentanyl crisis and prevent the next generation of addicts?
So as an Attorney General, I sued more opioid manufacturers and distributors than any other in the country. I was so mad if I could have found others, I would have sued them too. The fact is, this epidemic arose in our lifetime due to greed, putting corporate profits over the lives of our people, and it is the obligation of those same companies to provide us the funds to dig out. An epidemic that arose in our lifetime should be ended in our lifetime. We should not leave it for future generations. So I have an ask of all you all. I need you to get involved in that opioid abatement council that was created to decide how these funds would be used, because right now I have serious concerns. This is blood money. It is blood money that has to be treated right. It needs to go towards treatment. It needs to go to recovery. It needs to go to law enforcement and the services that surround all those. But our current Attorney General is letting a member of his office run wild and wants to put over $40 million into research for a private patent for a hallucinogenic that is not allowed by the FDA. And one specific one, not a whole class of them. To me, this is being driven by private interests, but we haven't seen $1 million go to law enforcement. We certainly haven't seen $40 million go to treatment. And if you don't step up and make your voice heard, I'm afraid they're going to vote out those that I have on there trying to do the right thing. This is an abuse of dollars I fought hard for. I went into court and I argued these cases myself to make sure that they would continue. The money is that important. So please speak up about it. If your organization is one that does this incredible work, you not only have to request the money, but I do need you to stand with me and push back against the diversion of the money to places that it shouldn't go.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
And my perspiration.
In addition to the wonderful glass of bourbon I just gave you, we have another gift. It's some coasters with the Rotary four-way test. So
Thank you.
live by that as you always do.
I appreciate it. Thanks all very much.
A Rotary picnic with ponies and puppies at Willow Hope Farm in Simpson is this weekend from 9 to 11. Sorry, 11 to 1. If you haven't signed up yet, tomorrow's the deadline. There'll be sparks. Our speaker next Thursday, that's not 2 days to 9 days from now, at the University Club is Dr. Nash Urban, Assistant Dean, Northeast Pacific and Changes in Development. He's one of the best speakers in the community of futures. So please RSVP by noon on Monday. The meeting is adjourned.